So today on the BSS 1250 channel, we have a Victor hand-driven adding machine. Not sure the model of this. I don't know if you can see in the camera or not, but we've got error, repeat, subtotal, total, minus, and non-add buttons. And then a regular 7-column keyboard. No, this is an 8-column keyboard. What am I saying? This is an 8-column keyboard. I know Bose made a 7-column keyboard, but this one's an 8-column. We're missing a 3 key and a 4 key, but luckily all the special keys are here. Of course this doesn't work. See, half the keys are jammed down. Some of them are stuck, some of them go down. That one's stuck, that one goes down. They don't really latch down that much. The handle is kind of halfway through a cycle. You can pull it forward, but I think it's supposed to be turned back further than this, so something's stuck there. Also, some of these keys are rusted in place. I think I busted this one loose, but the rest of these are all rusted stiff. It's interesting because I thought nothing rusted in Arizona. Get a view of that. It's all rusted around here. This one I busted loose, that one I busted loose. These ones are all solid. So let's take the cover off this and see what it looks like inside. Alright, so I took 3 screws out of each side. And I just took the handle off though. It turns out I didn't actually have to do that. There's a cut in the bottom, but I didn't see that, so I took the handle off too. Let's see if this will come on through. A little bit. I think there's supposed to be glass here too, but that's missing. Tip this up and see. There's no screws on the front. It's just a very tight fit. I have to turn off the camera and play around with this for a while. Seems pretty stuck. Yeah, let me do that. Okay, I finally figured it out. It's a really stupid design. There are 6 screws on the side, but then it still won't come off. I took this plate off that was here. Not really sure if that was necessary. Yeah, I guess it was necessary to get this off. I took that off, but it still wouldn't come off. Turns out you have to take this off, and that's not obvious either. The way that this is held on is, it sits on here like this. And then these 2 pins go up through it. This sits on those pins like that. And then these things slide on the pins like that and bolt down through there. So you have to take the 2 screws out of here, then slide these pins out, then pull this off. It's very stupid. Very hard to figure out that these were holding it down because it doesn't look like it. I mean, they're not even screws. It's just very strange. And you can hardly get to this screw because you have to stick your screwdriver down in between these 2 things here and try to get at the screw. So, just a really stupid design there. Okay. Should come off now. So it's loose before. Hanging up on those pins. And that's all basically straight to clear those pins. Okay. Let's see what we've got. So we've got more rust on this top plate. Although the mechanism itself doesn't look that rusty. Put the handle back on here real quick. That's all it does so far. I think that doesn't look like it's the end of the stock though. Although it looks like it's supposed to go forward further and doesn't. I wonder if this handle's on wrong or something. Yeah, because this definitely can't go back any further. Oh, the handle can't go on that way though. Huh. The handle does have to go on this way. And then to go the full extent of the handle, you'd be going. Something moved. Yeah, so it's very sticky, it looks like. This handle must be bent or something. Oh, I think I see what happened. Look like somebody welded it. Although still. So it's free. Oh, now, although it still won't go all the way. It won't go all the way to the end. Now it's all the way at the end. So something's going to have to be figured out about that. You can't turn the handle all the way. It's really strange. I wonder if somebody broke the handle and made this bottom piece, didn't make it right. As you can see, if I can get it off here. You can see it's definitely been repaired. You know what I bet happened? I bet this piece broke out of the middle and then somebody welded it back in and didn't weld it, but it's definitely welded. You can see the bead there. Sure it's not soldered, it has to be welded. Anyway, they put it in crooked. Not crooked, but out of time, so you have to pull the handle all the way down off the table to go through a full cycle, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. But first, we've got to get the actual machine working right, which it doesn't. And the first thing I'm going to do is pull all these keycaps off and clean up all these key stems and make sure those are free. And then I'm probably going to take this plate off and clean up all the rust on that and repaint it. And we'll go from there. So you can see how rusty this whole section was over here. It's free, but all those are rusted in place. We did have two casualties. Little piece broke off the equals button. I have to glue that back on. And this one got kind of messed up, so I have to see if I can glue that, but at least they're all off now. Nothing too major. We didn't have one explode and toss pieces all across the room, which can happen with these because they are like pretty hard, so they do chip pretty easy. But anyway, all these keys are off now. Now it's time to get down to cleaning these up. So as you can see, I've done some pretty serious disassembly on this calculator here, or adding machine, whatever you want to call it. It's technically an adding machine, but anyway, I've taken the keyboard out to clean the rust off the key stems. See them in the back there. So the springs and the key stems, I think they came out pretty well. I soaked them in the Metal Rescue bath for, I think some of them I had in there overnight and they cleaned up. Some of them took a little bit longer than that. See over there, that's the plates that go on the bottom of the keyboard and in between the key stems. Those seem to clean up pretty well too. As far as the actual calculator goes, it's pretty stiff. It's hard to turn back, so it's really gummed up with old grease. So I think that while I have the keyboard out, I'm going to work on loosening up all the sticky parts and cleaning out this register in the front's really dirty. The hammers here are really dirty. I think this is just dust. Yeah, that's just dirt and dust, so that should clean off. Who knows what kind of gunk is down in there. Registers there, but yeah, I didn't show taking the keyboard out because it wasn't a very fun process. I doubt that I did it the way the design was intended. It almost seems like they intended to take the entire machine apart to do that. Not entirely sure. As you see, these plates here rest on these things, and the only way I could find to get the plates out was to kind of like lock them up and then wiggle the key stems out. And I'll try and show you this when I put it back together, but see, these plates here are held in by this bar, and this bar is held in by screws, but the screws are all the way down here behind all these levers. So it seems like you'd have to take all the levers off this side in order to get the screws out to get that bar out, which I just didn't want to do, so I didn't. Hopefully we'll be able to get this back together without taking all that apart, because I really don't want to. As far as the dirt in here, I think that'll just brush off pretty well. Might be a little bit of rust. I'm going to oil this down pretty well as I'm putting it back together, so hopefully if there is any actual rust, it won't spread. Might be rust down there. Oh, I can't get down there. You see these didn't return. So yeah, I'm going to try and get this freed up, and then maybe I'll show you some features. These are the, it seems pretty stiff. These are the selector bars. So these slide down until a key stops them. I believe that's how these work, because these, so you can see the teeth in the front, that's what drives this register, and this will pop down and engage with these at the appropriate time. It won't right now because everything's all glued together with old grease, but it should, hopefully, by the time we're done with this machine. So I'm going to work on getting this all freed up and bring you back later. Okay, so I think I've gotten this pretty well loosened up to the point where I'm ready to put the keyboard back in. So let me show you a little bit of how it works. So up here in the front is our register, and I have it sideways because I have the crank here going down like that, since I can't put it, so I have to have the crank sideways like that. I won't say sideways, but the crank timing is messed up. So either the crank sticks down in the home position, or the crank sticks down when you pull it all the way. So either way, the crank has to be off the table at some point, so that's why that's like that. Anyway, these things here are the sliders, and that's kind of similar to the burrows that I repaired previously, where when this machine goes through a cycle, these slide down until they're stopped by a key pressed down on the keyboard, and then that determines the number that is added to the register up here, and also the number that is printed on the paper using these stamps. So when there's no key pressed, there's these rocker things here, and they sit in something like that, and that little tab on the bottom there sits in there and stops the slider from moving at all. And then when you push a key down, this swings out of the way so that it can slide down to the appropriate key position. So let me see if I can put this through a cycle. You can see what happens, maybe. So when I start pulling the handle, I have to make sure this is up. This is held up by a spring normally that attaches to the keyboard plate, but since I don't have that on, I have to push this up to make sure everything's set properly. So I start pulling the handle, and you'll see that the sliders now are sliding down. And I guess you missed that. Let's see if I can do this. So when it gets to the end of the cycle, we do the end of the cycle here. Watch these. These are the hammers. See how it snapped there? That's when it stamped the. See, these things should jump forward. That's how it stamps the number on the page. So now at the end of the cycle, we're going to return and you see, or I guess you didn't see, this register dropped. Let me redo the cycle. There's too many things happening at once. I forget what to point out. So that added all 9s in because there were no keys on the keyboard, so all the sliders slid down to the maximum extent, and what we got was all 9s in the register. Now if I do this again, hopefully I'll remember to point out what I want to point out. Make sure this is in time. We'll pull the handle. See, all the sliders are going down. Now watch the register as I start going back. So the register drops and engages with the sliders, and then as the sliders return, they drive the register the appropriate number of positions. I'm getting oil all over my hands. And one issue I was having with the register was the carrying mechanism. It's a pretty interesting carrying mechanism too. So I can get you closer in here. So these things here, I'll just set that one, are the carry enablers. Well, not really enablers, but carry drivers, I guess you could call them. It's a very interesting system. Basically what happens is, when you have a carry, say from this column to that column, there's a little knob back there that gets tripped. Let's see it. This little knob here, right here that I'm pointing at, gets tripped. That right there gets tripped, and what that does is it releases this thing, so to speak, so that when you complete the cycle and the register comes back up, this thing rotates forward and drives this wheel one position ahead of where it would be. So if I reset this to its home position, this is where it usually lives, kind of at that angle. Now you can see that this is one digit behind what it was. If I release this again, now it's one digit ahead, and that was the carry. Now if you don't add anything, and you, basically if I had all zeros on the keyboard, and I ran a cycle, when the register drops down, these reset. When it comes back up, it stays in its position, and this is set to take on the next carry. So it's a really weird type deal where the carry doesn't actually finish in one cycle. The act of setting the carry flag leaves the carry flag in kind of a set state like it's in now, and then when you run the next cycle, the carry flag actually resets. Unless of course it's another carry, in which case it'll be like this again, but I thought that was pretty weird. So on all the other machines that I've worked on, the carry is set and cleared in the same cycle. So usually the act of clearing the carry flag is what actually drives the next wheel, but in this case, when the carry flag is in the set position, that's what drives the next wheel, and this will be reset on the next machine cycle. So I thought that was kind of interesting. These are all pretty well glued up with old grease, so I had to spend quite a bit of time trying to get down in there and back here to work things loose, but it seems to be okay now. You can see it all carried across. I had all 9s added the first time, then all 9s added the second time, and you can see we got 9 out of 9 and 8 in the ones position. So all the carries seem to be working now. Something that is still a little gummed up though is this lever here. So like if you push one of these keys, like say we'll push the total key, this is supposed to drop down, but it's still pretty gummy. However, I can work that loose with the keyboard in. I also want to get the keyboard back in, since that's going to be an incredibly painful process. And that way I can do some more testing on the machine to make sure that that it adds properly and everything. I also have to get the these things reconnected back up to the slider. So you can see these are the back end of the slider arms down here, and these are the, maybe if my arm wasn't in the way you could see, These are the arms that drive the hammers. You can see that one sliding up and down as I move it. And these connect together with springs and these little pieces. As you can see, these are pretty well caked in dry grease, so I have to clean up all those before I put that back together. But I want to get the keyboard in first, because that's going to be the most painful process. So I'll see if I can show that. It's not going to be easy. Basically how it works is you have these key stems and these key plates, and you got a spring that goes on the key stem, and that goes in here like that, and then this piece latches underneath the next plate in the layer. So basically you'd have your next keyboard row here, something like that, and the key latches in like that, and that's what holds it in place. The problem is getting all that stuff back in the machine is not particularly easy. I guess. So my tripod is not cooperating. So with that plate in there like that, I actually think it should go forward or backwards a little bit. No, it has to go backwards a little bit. Like that, I think, is how it goes in. And then these have to go in there and latch underneath that plate. So I'm not sure if I would be able to just work these in. So it just came right out. So I'm going to probably have to play around with this for a while. See how exactly that one in. So that might be one in, but now I'm going to get all the other ones in without that one springing out. So this is not going to be a pleasant process, but hopefully I'll be able to do it. So I got one row back in anyway. I ended up just using the handle of my pliers here to push them all down so I could get everything, so I get the plate seated in. Basically I started at that end, had the plate tilted out a little bit so I could shove new ones in, and then I just held them in place like that until I had them all in, and then just pushed this end of the plate in. So it's definitely not an enjoyable process, but I think we'll make it. So after a lot of fighting and coasting and keys flying across the room from springing out and flying across the room, I think I've finally got a pattern on how this is supposed to work, at least how I think it's supposed to work. Start with this, we'll put one key in, and then it's going to be pretty hard to show this because my tripod doesn't go high enough. Basically what you want to do is, see that little tab? There's one tab here and one tab here. You want your row to go on top of this tab with the corner going under that tab, and when that happens it should line up right against the back of this little notch here. So, not sure if I can get this on camera or not. Probably not, because my tripod doesn't go high enough. Come on. No, that's not going to work. Let's get that out of there. Basically, you want this under here and that on top of there. Like that. And then see, this is right up against the back of that there. The trick is to get that in there with this key in there. That way this one's in, so you don't have to try and fiddle around with this. Because see, now that it's like that, this won't go in. So they won't go in that way. This is incredibly difficult to do, especially one-handed. See, it won't go in now because this plate is too close to that plate. So you kind of have to lift this up a little bit, slip the key in, then put it back down. So I'll do my best. Maybe I can get it from this angle. to show that here. So with the key, push that in. You kind of want to shut this down like that. Now see, this is held in. And then you can proceed with the rest of the keys. I like to start from the opposite side. So that one's held in. And now we have to get that tab underneath like that. So now that corner is underneath that tab. So now this tray is in the correct position to continue. So now what you have to do is kind of wiggle the rest of the keys in, kind of hold that down so that doesn't come out. Lift up on the middle and wiggle the key in. I'm just going to do that all the way across the row. This is not a very good design in my opinion. I think there should be a much easier, less spring-inducing way of taking this apart and putting it back together. Because if you lift up too much on the row, then the springs on these things, or the tabs on the bottom, will be free of this plate, and these will fly out. So you have to lift up just enough to get your key in, but not enough so that it frees all the other keys. Okay, so now all my keys are in, I think. Yeah, that one's in. Now this should snap down. See how the front edge is up a little bit? That should snap down. Should. Something preventing it from doing that. Maybe these are. There it goes. See, now it's snapped down. So now it's flat. And now you should hopefully be firmly in there. Yeah. So it's a bit fiddly to do. My opinion, not the best design, but that's what it is. So that's what we're going to have to work with. I'm going to work on getting the rest of these in and then see where we can go from there. Okay, so once you've got all the keys back in and all these plates back in, that one's not falling out there, then this piece goes in here on the side to hold them all in. There's just a little rivet that this front piece hooks onto, and there's a peg here and a little knob there that go in these two holes, and then there's a screw that goes in the back to hold it in place. See if we can't just drop that in. It should come in from the back. That should go in right like that. Should hold all these pieces down. For a little bit more, but so that should hopefully, there we go. So that should hopefully hold all these plates back down so they won't pop out. I believe this is the screw for that. Goes in right here. So after this, there's another fun part, because all those rockers have to now go in between the keys. Of course, now I can't get the screw in here. Cooperating. Yeah, all those rockers that I showed you before have to go in between the keys. It's going to be tight, but whatever. So this hook thing here has to go underneath the back of the keyboard. So basically, you can't just put it in like that. It won't fit. You kind of have to like swing it around and drop it down under, and try and get it across all the keys to where it belongs. So it's going to be another fight, I think. me get these back in. But yeah, so these have to go back in, and then once all these are in, the slightly easier rockers can drop back in. Probably have to move that out of the way, but yeah. And then once all those are in, then this plate goes on the back here to hold them in place. So I'm gonna fight with these for a while, tighten the screw down, and move on from there.